Well, good morning. This is a great day, and so I want everybody to feel good. I do. My name is Otis Williams, and I'm the Executive Director for the St. Louis Development Corporation, and our mission is to foster economic development and growth in the city of St. Louis. We are here today to celebrate the official transfer of 97 acres of land from the city of St. Louis to the federal government. The technical and legal aspects of the transaction were finalized on Tuesday of this week at Insight Title Company, and all the I's have been dotted and the T's have been crossed. So the property now belongs to the federal government. So technically, this is a ceremony, but I think we can go ahead and call it a celebration. A celebration of a lot of hard work by a lot of people, a celebration of a strengthened partnership between the city of St. Louis, St. Louis County, the state of Missouri, federal partners, and the NGA. And it is a celebration of the opportunity for our shared future that this transformative project will bring the city and NGA and to the neighborhood around it. This momentous effort was possible due to the continued diligence by all the federal, state, and local agencies and stakeholders, as well as the committed consultant teams that were involved, and there were many. With 17 contracts issued to prepare the site, 8 utility companies that were working on it, there were an unprecedented level of coordination on this project. In addition, invaluable contributions were made outside of the site under the banner of Project Connect and its partners, and hundreds of residents and businesses within 8 neighborhoods participated in this effort to coordinate with 20 city and regional agencies and 3 federal agencies to ensure the future NGA site will benefit the adjacent neighborhoods, the city, and the region. This is a $1.75 billion investment in our community that will drive additional investment in the neighborhoods surrounding the NGA. And it is our duty here to spur economic development and investment as we establish St. Louis as the hub of geospatial excellence. As I said, a lot of people put a lot of work to get us to this day. And unfortunately, I don't have time to list by name all the people who really deserve to be recognized today. But I want to start with all of you here in this room today. So every one of you has touched this project, which is why we invited all of you. And so I want to say thank you to each of you for your help in getting us to this point. And I want you to join me in an applause for all of you. I do want to recognize several groups of people who are here with us. I'd like to start by recognizing members of the Board of Aldermen and members of the state legislature who are present. And I see Senator Nasheed is here and other members of the state legislature who might be here. And the aldermanic members from St. Louis City, if you're here, stand, because I have to reach out to those guys because they are. It was both of these bodies that essentially provided legislation that provided money to to make this whole thing happen. And so we certainly appreciate the effort because we could not have done it without you, for sure. So I'd also like to thank a group of people who aren't thanked enough, and that is the employees of SLDC, St. Louis Development Corporation. I have the privilege of working with them every day, and I'm very proud to do that. Without them and the hard work they have put in throughout this process, this project would not have come together. So the second part of that is like my extended staff. I have to honor Russell Halliday, and so I'm going to ask Russell to stand up. Russell is he started off with a firm called MWH, but it got merged with a company called Stantec, so now he's Stantec. But there's a team of folk that support Russell, and I'd like for all those folks to stand. It's Brendan Musgrave, Bridget. I should not have started to pronounce Bridget's last name because it starts with 3 consonants, and so. And part of that team included the folks from Civitas and also Steve Wallach, and I'm not sure if Steve's here, but a group of folks who really helped along the way. I have to also say thanks to the city team. When I say that, all of the city departments. And so along the way, I've had various offices in the city to provide great support because we've had challenges all over the place, to include fire and police. But I wanted to say thanks, particularly to the person. Whenever I say I work for her, she always says that we worked with each other. And so that's Linda Martinez. Linda is the Deputy Mayor for Economic Development and is my constant contact within the Mayor's office when I'm not talking directly to the Mayor. So the other departments such as BPS and streets, zoning, building division, and the guy who's been my conscience has been the planning director, who is Don Rowe. So I always have to look and say thanks to Don for keeping me on the straight and narrow. The other important body is my board. So I happen to lead 10 boards. The umbrella board is the St. Louis Development Corporation, and the one that has money is, in fact, the LCRA. I'd like for all of the board members who are under the SLSC umbrella, but specifically LCRA and LCRH. I see Jim Garavalia here from the Comptroller's Office, who's part of that LCRA-H board. So can I ask all of those board members to stand, please? And one of the key things here is all of the contractors who have worked with us. And so all of the folks who were on the site, we talked about those 17 contracts. Well, 8 of them were to minority contractors, 3 to women. And our overall goal was such that we ended up with 40% minority and 45% women on this site. And if you were a contractor on this site, please stand. We certainly appreciate your efforts. And so there's nothing we do where we don't need to have lawyers and accountants. And so I'll start with the accountant first, because they were the ones that got us the money to get started. So we thank the Comptroller Green, for providing the collateral for the first bridge loan that we did for about $20 million. But that effort was coordinated by Stiefel with the assistance of the Comptroller's team. And so I want to thank Peter Chakowski and Gina Martin from Stiefel, who both did the $20 million bridge loan, but also $114 million in bonds. And so they're the reason that we are here. We were able to monetize the stream of revenue that was approved by the Board of Aldermen and by the state legislature. So we appreciate Stifel's effort and all of those banks who then ultimately allowed us to pass money or get loans from them. Boosie Bank, Stifel Bank, Enterprise, going down that path. So I missed one, I'm sure. Did I get them all? Okay, great. And the lawyers. So, great work from the City Council's office led by Julian Bush and Mike Garvin, Bob Durker. Those guys did a fabulous job and still working, by the way. And by my rock star, and that's the Carmody McDonald firm, who has been very involved. Jerry Carmody, I think, and his team is here, as well as Gilmore Bell with Mark Grimm and crew. So I certainly appreciate all those efforts. So this is one of those where it's very, it's very good to get to this point in this effort, and I did one of those things as a speaker. I strayed away from my notes. So we're almost there. So let me do this. And if I miss somebody, I always get an alibi around because I'm the MC here, so I get a chance to get back. Oh, I know what it is. I forgot all of those folks who were there early, okay? And that, the folks who, before we got this, I call them my kitchen cabinet. That was Maggie Crane, Mary Ellen Ponder, Julie Murphy Finn, Mike Dubois, Steve Wallach. I mean, we didn't know whether we were up or down many days, and we kept reading the press, and the press kept saying that we didn't have a snowball chance in hell. And so we said, we took her down and decided that we could make this all happen, and we did. And I go back to the guy who really carried us a long way with his energy, and that was former Senator Kit Bond, who was like So the state agencies I'm going to get once I let Governor Parsons speak, because without the state agencies, none of this would have happened. I mean, for everything that we did, we had to turn to the state. So I'll talk to these guys a little bit later. But I also like to thank the folks from the St. Louis Economic Development Partnership. That's Sheila Sweeney and Rodney Krim and that whole crew, and the board of the St. Louis Economic Development Partnership. So thank you very much. So at this point, I'd like to introduce the folk on stage. We want to do some of the folk who will not speak at this point, and those that will speak, I will introduce in turn. Unfortunately, Comptroller Green could not be present, and so she's became ill today, and so we are sorry that she's not going to be here. But I'd like to introduce the President of the Board of Aldermen, Louis Reed. And we had 3 aldermen who at various times had to carry a burden or of trying to get legislation passed to support this project. And so I'd like to introduce Alderwoman Marlene Davis from the 19th. Alderwoman Tabika Hubbard, who really took Alderman Brandon Bosley, who is former Governor Jay Nixon, who really helped leverage the state resources on behalf of this project, who's sitting on the end there. Ms. Charcetta Taylor and Ms. Rose Green. Ms. Taylor and I go back a long way. So. they represent the neighborhood and the neighbors in the area, and so I wanted to be sure and recognize our neighbors here. And finally, former Mayor Francis Slay, without whom we would not be here today, because Mayor Slay led the charge and made many decisions, and he backed me when I made decisions that were not popular, and so I certainly appreciate that. And so now it's my pleasure to introduce in the person who led the charge since the election, since her election in April of 2017. She too has had to make a number of key decisions along the way to this event, and I'm proud to introduce Mayor Lyda Krewson.
Thank you, Otis. Good morning.
Good morning.
I am so thrilled to be with you today for a very historic event. Today, the City of St. Louis has turned over 97 acres, the NGA site, to the federal government. We've anticipated this day for over 4 years, and it's happening because of the tenacity and the commitment of so many people. And thank you, Otis, for mentioning so many of those folks. But I want to begin by thanking our federal partners. NGA Director Robert Cardillo, we thank you. You and your team have been our partners every step of the way, and it has been an honor to work with you. Assistant Secretary of Defense, Robert McMahon, it's been great working with you for the last month. He's new on the scene, but he knew that he had to make this happen. So thank you so much. And Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Air Force, Richard Hartley, thank you so much. So thank you to our federal partners for your confidence in St. Louis and for your enormous investment in St. Louis. I know you will love your new home at NGA West at Jefferson and Cass. It's just a few blocks from here. And we are committed to continuing our partnership with you every step of the way and to build on the momentum that we all feel here today, and to bring the very best in geospatial partners, in jobs, and in development to the neighborhood. Thank you to Otis Williams, Executive Director of St. Louis Development Corporation. In November 2014, so over 4 years ago, NGA announced its plans to move. Since then, Otis has shepherded this project every step of the way. From the pitch, to the concept, to the selection, to the site preparation, and finally to today's land transfer. Otis, now he's standing off here to the side. Come, step on out here, okay. Otis's expertise and his prepared, tenacious, and professional leadership have led us to this celebration today. So thank you all for recognizing Otis a few minutes ago. This is the guy that we literally would not have gotten here without. So thank you to Otis. To Mayor Francis Slay, thank you. NGA West is the project that you started, that you envisioned, and that you won in the selection process to ensure that NGA stayed here in St. Louis for the next century. And County Executive Stanger, thank you for your regional leadership and for your collaboration. We all know that this collaboration is what enabled a regional proposal for this site and for this selection. So thank you, County Executive Stanger. Senator McCaskill, Senator Blunt, Representative Clay, Representative Wagner, you all led the site selection effort in Washington. We know that. You advocated, you explained, you cajoled, you fought. You got some stuff in there at 1 a.m. in some appropriations bill. Yeah. To keep NGA here in St. Louis. So thank you. And to the board. And to the Board of Aldermen, the entire Board of Aldermen, and especially to President Reed, Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderwoman Davis, and Alderman Bosley, both Freeman Bosley, Alderman Freeman Bosley, and now Alderman Brandon Bosley. Thank you. Projects this big are never easy. You stuck with it. That's why we're here today. Thank you. And to the neighbors, thank you. 2 of the many important neighbors are on stage with us this morning. Please recognize and join me in thanking Miss Rose Green and Mrs. Charlesetta Taylor. Miss Green and Miss Taylor are residents of the St. Louis Place neighborhood. And you remind us, appropriately, that we are building this great new facility in the middle of a neighborhood with a vibrant history and many community ties. A neighborhood that we will honor and respect moving forward. Thanks to both of you, Ms. Green and Ms. Rose. We appreciate you very much. Rose Green, Ms. Taylor, and Ms. Green. Thank you. And finally, this has been mentioned, but it bears saying again, to our state partners. We would not be here today without you either. Thank you, Governor Mike Parson. You have played a very important role. Thank you, Governor Nixon, for taking that, starting that, and taking it along the way. The Missouri Department of Economic Development, Rob Dixon, the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, you have worked hand in hand with us from day one and every day, up to and including a meeting in my office last Friday. Thank you. We know that's how this gets done. For more than 70 years, St. Louis has been home to NGA West headquarters. We have been proud, very proud, to be your neighbor, but more importantly, we have been proud to be your partner and proud that we could help you meet your mission of protecting our country. With the transfer of these 97 acres, we are excited to be part of the NGA mission of the future and to retain 3,100 permanent employees and to welcome the region's largest single construction project at $1.75 billion to enable a great facility for you to meet your mission of the future. That future includes vibrant, thriving, and revitalized neighborhoods that honor the character and the people. That future includes a growing and private sector geospatial and location intelligence community that works with NGA to support your efforts and grows our local economy. That future includes schools and universities training our kids to be the next generation of employees for NGA and for the growing geospatial private sector. So once again, thank you, Director Cardillo, Assistant Secretary McMahon, and Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary Hartley. And thank you to everyone here today who helped us build on the last 70 years and to achieve an even brighter future. This is a big day. This is a historic day in St. Louis. Thank you all for taking time out of your schedule this morning to be here and celebrate with us a bit. Thank you all.
So I know that the governor has a very tight schedule, so I'd like to introduce Governor Mike Parson.
Thank you. you very much. As the mayor said, what a historical day here in St. Louis today. What a moment that we all get to be part of. And I tell you, it's an honor for me to be the governor of the state of Missouri. And it's an honor to be here in the same room with two former governors of the state of Missouri, Governor Bond and Governor Nixon here today. And I have to share with you, I told Governor Nixon in the back room back there, I said, you know, I appreciate all the work you've done on that when you was governor, but I'm going to take as much credit for it as I can. I just wanted to make sure I got that clear back there. You know, today, needless to say, is an important day as the city of St. Louis transfers 97 acres in North St. Louis to the federal government for the new NGA Western headquarters. This project had a mission like any others. It will support the mission of the NGA to support our nation's policymakers, our military, our intelligence, professionals, and first responders. And it will help fulfill a local mission of creating an opportunity in the area of critical need, serving the citizens of St. Louis and Missouri. This shared mission led to an unprecedented collaboration between local, state, and federal partners. Project Connect and all of the city of St. Louis is doing to engage citizens in this area. And I want to thank the director, my director, Carol Comer, for what she has done and what for Missouri's Department of Natural Resources for your partnership in the project. It is not often that you see a regulatory agency working so closely with the economic development agencies, but that is how we get things done in the state of Missouri. Thank you, Director, for your work. And I also want to thank the Missouri General Assembly for their work on this project. And I especially want to thank the NGA Director, Robert Cadillo, for choosing to invest in this region and to stay within this great community, because we all know this could have been taken many other places. They had other choices, but I think for them to stay here in St. Louis was a big statement for our state and for St. Louis, and I thank you for making that decision. This is the kind of project that will open doors and lead to other projects that will help establish this region as a hub for the geospatial technology. Not only is there nearly a $2 billion investment, but this will retain 3,000 jobs to this area. Just think about the advances in technology that the NGA will require over the next 5, 10, or 20 years. You can already see progress happening in the arena with the relationship being built with the St. Louis business community. We have over 40 geospatial companies in the St. Louis region. Geospatial resources are throughout many higher ed institutions, including University of Missouri, St. Louis University, Washington University here in St. Louis. And we are at a turning point where demand for geospatial technology is only going to grow both in the public and the private sector. And this project positions St. Louis and Missouri to be the center of growth. Today marks a game changer for St. Louis. This region will have a brighter future thanks to the hard work of all those parties here today and their commitment to this one shared mission. If there was ever an example to learn from today, it is truly about what we all can do together when you work together. And I think this is a perfect example of seeing the state, the federal, the locals, sitting down at a table over 4 years ago with a vision and with a plan. And here today, we get to see the result of that hard work of all the men and women that are up here on this stage and what they've done. But this also, I will tell you, is a model for the rest of Missouri to see what can be done when we have visions about moving forward. And I will take it one step forward. It is a vision for the United States of America to take a look at Missouri and see what we've done on this day by working together to come up for the betterment of our state. It is an honor and privilege to be the 57th governor of the state of Missouri. Thank you very much for having me here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Governor. And I do too applaud the fact that, as I mentioned, the folks at the state of Missouri has been outstanding. And he mentioned Director Comer, and I want to also say that Rob Dixon, who is the Director of the Economic Development Team, we could not have done it without the Economic Development Team. Rob and his staff, just outstanding. I see a few of them here. But I especially want to give a shout out, though, to Sally Hemingway, who from day one when I first learned about this project, I called Sally, which as I do most times. And she has been the rock that we have built on through the state government. So, I see Michael Lanahan, Joe Driscoll, Brian Baer, who was on staff there. All of those folks have been called to do God's work, as they say. Next would have been on our program would have been our two senators. But unfortunately, there's a major vote in Congress. I think you probably read about it. So we do not have Senator Blunt nor Senator McCaskill here today, but I'd like to see if Senator Blunt's staff is present. If they would, please stand. The one thing that I can tell you is that Senator Blunt carries a big stick, and so we certainly appreciate all of his efforts. And so is there any representative from Senator McCaskill's office present? If not, we certainly thank her as well. And so next will be Representative Clay, Lacey Clay. And so let me just say something about Representative Clay. He's a terrific speaker, but he always tells me exactly what's on his mind. So with that, I'm going to bring one of the great champions of this project, Representative Lacey Clay.
Thank you so much, Otis. And today is a great day. And Director Cardillo, Secretary Hartley, Secretary McMahon, my essential partners, Governor Nixon, Mayor Slay, Senator Bond, County Executive Stinger. Welcome to the heart of my congressional district. Today we're taking a giant step forward to defend our nation and to transform a long-challenged neighborhood into a center of excellence and employment with an unlimited future. The fierce competition to win the new $1.75 billion NGA Western headquarters began over 5 years ago. And the truth is, Senator Bond and I were some of the only elected leaders that thought we could actually accomplish this. We were ultimately successful because we forged a remarkable bipartisan coalition at the federal, state, and local levels that refused to lose. And together we provided NGA with the best possible choice to advance its vital mission and to build a stronger future for the agency as well. So besides being the largest single federal investment in St. Louis history, this project also represents something else. It represents a powerful, transformative measure of economic justice. The new NGA site, which is just across the street from the giant federal failure of Pruitt-Igoe, is also right in the middle of our HUD Promise Zone, as well as our federally designated Opportunity Zone. Besides bringing 3,100 exceptional jobs to North St. Louis and remarkable development opportunities to the surrounding neighborhood, the new NGA West is also a powerful symbol, and that we will no longer turn our backs on North St. Louis. We will no longer treat historic black neighborhoods as expendable, and we will no longer dismiss or diminish the dreams of the good people who live in challenged neighborhoods like this one, and who deserve a better future. Now, let me take this opportunity to thank a few. I want to thank President Obama and his administration for having the faith to put projects like this in the urban core. I also want to take this opportunity to thank my class colleague and the incoming chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff, for coming here to this community and believing in this project and supporting it with us. And by the way, I'm so glad that Mrs. Taylor and Mrs. Green are here today on stage with us, because as we celebrate this site transfer, let's remember to honor and respect the strong people in this neighborhood who made a tremendous sacrifice to make this project possible. I remember the conversation I had with Ms. Taylor, and I asked her, well, what would it take for you to get on board? She said, you move my house. You know, and thank you, Otis, for that. You know, every citizen who relocated their residence or business not only made a sacrifice for their community, but they made a brave sacrifice for their country too. And we thank you and we salute you. Thank you. And Director Cardillo, I know you share a strong interest with me in American history, and when it comes to the new NGA West, history is truly coming full circle. In 1941, the War Department opened the St. Louis Ordnance Plant, which occupied almost 300 acres at the corner of Goodfellow and what is now Interstate 70. Billions of rounds of 30-odd and 50-odd ammunition flowed out of that plant as North St. Louis truly became a cornerstone of the arsenal of democracy. Today, the ammunition that defends our nation comes first from the digital information that NGA provides to our armed forces, to our intelligence community, and to all our counterterrorism efforts. So as the Air Force takes control of this site, today, North St. Louis will once again rise as a beacon of freedom, a center for development, and real economic inclusion, and a symbol for our shared commitment to protect and lift up neighborhoods like this one. So thank you very much, and thank all of you, and God bless.
Thank you, Congressman. So our next speaker is Congresswoman Ann Wagner, and we could not go without saying that we would not be here without her late-inning efforts to try and help us over the finish line. So, Congresswoman Wagner.
There we go. Thank you, Otis, and thanks to everyone so much who came here this morning to celebrate this special moment for our community. St. Louis has been home to NGA for over 70 years, and our city's wonderful talent has kept America safe again and again and again. In Congress, we've been fighting for years, along with my colleagues here, to keep and to grow NGA's new campus in St. Louis and provide funding for its acquisition and its construction. Now, it's been alluded to, but let me make it clear. My bedtime is around 10 p.m., all right? on the dot. But a couple of years ago, I stayed on the House floor well into the wee morning hours, waiting to offer an amendment to fiscal year 2017 appropriations bill to ensure that our NGA campus got the funding it needed, while dodging my dear friends and colleagues on the other side of the river in Illinois, quite artfully, if I do say so myself. It took them about a year to talk to me again, but we got her done. As the mayor said, it was just business. That's it. Just business. My friends in St. Louis City, NGA, and the Air Force have been working just as hard to realize this groundbreaking property transfer. This is one of the largest federal investments projects in the history of St. Louis, and it has truly been a regional effort, and everyone doing their part to make it happen. St. Louis has tremendous assets, resources, and knowledge, and I'm excited for this opportunity to enhance our contributions to America's critical national security and intelligence missions. Geospatial intelligence has taken the world by storm, and the United States is a leader among nations in combating mapping, combining both the mapping with remote sensing and imagery analysis. NGA's technology and strategic intelligence protects us from cyber threats, from terrorism, and many other global crises. It keeps our troops safe and gives our warfighters insight in how best to defeat our enemies and secure our nation. NGA supports humanitarian and disaster relief efforts and provides world-class navigation services. We are proud that St. Louis is a leading player in America's intelligence community, and we know that NGA will have a long and happy life in our city. Thank you again to everyone who has invested so much time and energy into this land transfer, and I look forward to hammering in nails myself once the construction is underway. Thank you so much to everyone who came this morning to celebrate this special moment for our community. St. Louis is home to NGA for over 70 years, and it is here for centuries to come. Best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman Wagner. So our next speaker is the guy that we've indicated that really gave at the desk, and this time it was our county executive, Steve Stinger, because he had two very competitive sites during the selection process, and he took the regional approach, which was to go for supporting St. Louis City, and for that we're eternally grateful. So let me introduce Steve Stinger.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And I have to tell you, when I first heard that NGA was thinking about moving, and I heard about the $1.7 billion of investment, Lyda and Francis, I'm sorry, but my first thought was, how do we take this and put it in the county? I'm completely kidding. As you know, that's not how it went down. We supported this location from the very beginning, and we did that because we recognized that it is in the best interest of all of us, of our community, for the NGA and for our entire St. Louis region, for this project to be located right here in St. Louis City. Building this new facility in St. Louis will benefit both the agency and its employees. Suffice to say, the new NGA headquarters represents a transformative investment for our entire metropolitan area. This new facility positions the agency for the long run, placing it in the middle of a growing technology hub. It also contributes to an unprecedented economic boom in our region, which has seen billions of dollars in capital improvements, expansions, and new construction, while creating and retaining tens of thousands of jobs since 2015 alone. We look forward to the construction of the new facility and the benefits it will bring for all of our area residents. Again, it is a pleasure to be here, And congratulations to all involved on the next phase of this historic project. Thank you.
Thank you, County Exec. So our next speaker is Director Cadillo. And without me going through a great deal of fanfare, he has been a great guy to deal with and negotiate with. And so essentially the first part was just getting selected. And so for that, I'm going to be eternally grateful. But I'll let him tell the story.
Well, good morning to you all. This truly is a historic day, and it's a day worth celebrating. And I'm pleased to be a representative of Team NGA as we do so. But I do need to put it in some historic context, even broader than we've already spoke. This is a youngish agency. We're only 22 years old by statute. We're hundreds of years old by tradecraft and profession. We quite seriously regard George Washington as employee number one because of his surveying and his cartographic services that we proudly continue today. Literally 191 years ago, this United States made an investment in this community down on what now is 2nd Street and Arsenal and put in the beginning of a long-term interdependent relationship for our nation's security. Last century, in the middle of last century, as you heard from the congressman, another investment was made to move munitions capability. Our forefathers, our profession, came soon thereafter. This was mapping, charting, and geodesy, literally setting the conditions to enable safe navigation, precision engagement, more secure warfighters, more informed decision makers, and literally leading the edge in this new technology. Some 4.5 years ago, I had the great privilege of being informed that I was going to be the next director of NGA, and very soon after that they said, "Oh, and you have a decision to make." And I said, "What's that?" And they said, "Well, we need to decide where we're going to put the new campus in this region." And it was a regional competition. And that began two long, sporty, interesting, fascinating, lesson-learning years for me and for my team. Learned a lot about environmental studies and impact and economic development and security and construction, et cetera. I do want to thank the Corps of Engineers for all of their support both then and now to enable me to achieve the record of decision, which was 2.5 years ago. But I have to say, too, what was behind that decision some 2.5 years ago was literally 2 centuries of investment. The nation made a bet on this city and this region. We're making the next installment on that bet. You've already returned on that investment through the talented employees, teammates that we have today, generations of them that work at 2nd Street today. And we couldn't be prouder that we're gonna reinvest now in the community. And the single most important decision that I had, or the criteria amongst many, as I had on my desk, was which campus, which location could best ensure our mission success in the future. And it was, quite frankly, the teamwork that you've heard about here today. It's the educational community that exists to provide the skill sets. It's the contractual teammates that we have in industry. It's the think tanks. It's the local citizens. And quite frankly, it's our neighbors who allowed this to happen. And so what a team you all put together. And we saw that the mission success couldn't be more optimized than that location in North St. Louis. I'll add my thanks, as I said, to the Corps, to the Air Force, Secretary McMahon for delivering the deed, quite literally, 2 days ago. He committed that to me. I have to thank my bosses, the Director of National Intelligence, Coates, my Undersecretary for Defense, Kernan, the Missouri Congressional Delegation, thank you all very much. To Mayor Slay and Cruson, thank you. And obviously to Governor Nixon and Governor Parson. But also to the room and who you all represent. As I said, we're embedded and invested in this community. We're about to put down a bigger investment, but we wouldn't be here today without what you've already returned on that investment. I do need to highlight a person, because I asked my senior executives to stand up and lead this project, and it came with a commitment that you had to be there through delivery of the facility. This was 2 years ago. We're probably 6 years from full operating capability in this site. And Sue Pullman raised her hand. Sue, stand up. Stand up. So we should take a picture today. We will take a picture today. This is Sue 2 years in. Sue's got, and look, but what Sue has ahead of us is the real fun. We've worked real hard to get here, but now we get to deliver a world-class capability to ensure the nation's secure. And what a great privilege that is. So Sue, and I know your team's in the room, you've done a great job today. Let's celebrate for the moment. Let's take a deep breath and reflect for a moment, and then let's get back to work, because we've got a lot to do ahead of us. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cardillo. Thank you very much. One of the happiest days of my life is before today was June 2nd, 2016, when he selected us as our site as the location for the new NGA West campus. So our next speaker is Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Air Force, and that is Mr. Hartley. And so we started dealing with a number of Air Force types many years ago, and so I'm glad to see Mr. Hartley. So he's the person that's going to sign the deed, well, actually sign in the ceremony here today. So we welcome him on behalf of all of the folks in St. Louis. One thing about the Air Force is that they will be the landlord. So it's an unusual situation. The tenant is the NGA. The owner, or at least the operator of the site, is the Air Force. And so we welcome you today.
Well, thank you, Mr. Williams, and good morning to you all. As you all can see, and as you all have heard, getting to this point today was the result of a considerable amount of effort on the part of many individuals. Frankly, as you've heard, too many for me to thank everybody who's earned the credit here today. But looking at the stage here today, you can see that the breadth of the organizations involved and the leadership involved show that this was an extraordinarily collaborative and cooperative effort. So it was a team effort, and we're thrilled to be here today. So on behalf of the Air Force, I'd like to thank first and foremost the citizens of St. Louis, but also those that are here today that made this happen, and their staffs, Governor Parson, Representatives Clay and Wagner, Mayor Cruson, County Executive Stenger, Executive Director Williams, Director Cardillo, and Secretary McMahon. And more importantly, their staffs and their subject matter expertise, without whom we would not be here at this closing today. Today's closing has been a long time coming. We had to get through some real thorny legal issues, and it was the expertise, the hard work, the diligence, and the never give up attitude of so many of those action officers and subject matter experts that made us and that got us on the path today. And the path today we're on is one that will address a lot of the deficiencies associated with the current facility with a new, modern, secure, safe, resilient, and highly functional NGA campus. A campus that will also serve as an anchor for the Project Connect redevelopment effort. So great work to the staffs. I can't thank you enough. I want to thank also our authorizers and appropriators for the $870 million of military construction funding that made this happen. And probably most of all, I want to thank the city of St. Louis. The work they did, first of all, in finding the 97 acres, but also in the environmental cleanup and the site preparation was phenomenal. They moved 37,000 truckloads off the site. That included over 830,000 tons of material, more than like 20 miles of utility infrastructure, 16 and a half of that underground, brought in over 300,000 cubic yards of clean soil. So this truly was a Herculean and administrative and literally ground-moving effort by Mr. Williams and his team. So just a phenomenal effort. There were times I didn't think we'd get there, but we did. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure, I thought we'd get there about a week ago. But we made it. We made it. And much to the credit of Mr. Williams and his team. So I can't thank them enough. I can't thank you all enough. As a landowner, the Air Force is proud to be part of this modernization effort that will give the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency a state-of-the-art, safe, secure, and resilient campus. And we're thrilled to be part of the City of St. Louis's redevelopment activity for years to come. So thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hartley. So we're down to the guy that I had to deal with at the very end. And, and when he stands up, you're going to see that he's actually taller than me. And so, yeah. Agreed. So Assistant Secretary of Defense, Mr. McMahon, Bob McMahon, I think it was about 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago, I got an email from Lucian Niemeyer who says, my replacement, Mr. McMahon, is on board and he is going to make sure we get to the end. And so in that case, he did, and as evidenced by today. So I'd like to introduce Assistant Secretary of Defense for Sustainment, Mr. Robert McMahon.
Well, good morning. I acknowledge that Otis and 7 additional speakers have been in front of me, to include the mayor, the governor, 2 members of Congress, a representative from the county, and then from both the Air Force and NGA. So I am confident that whatever I say, I will not be the most memorable speaker today. I do know, though, I'll be the tallest. Before I go much further, Russell, would you stand up? Otis, would you come back out here for a second? As has been alluded to, I'm perhaps the newest member of Team NGA, and in preparation for coming into this position, I tried to look at a little bit of history, and I looked back, and there was a picture of these 2 that went back about 4 years. At that point in time, Russell was 6'6", and you guessed it, Otis had a full head of hair. Both have given much to be here, and both have done a remarkable job. And how about a round of applause once again for the pair. If I embarrass one more person, Sue, would you stand up? We were in the mayor's office, representatives of the governor. The mayor was there, a number of the team members. Sue was there, and this was about a month ago, maybe even less than a month ago, as we reached a handshake and how we move forward. You talk about passion for this program. In this community, there's passion. On the stage, there's passion. But in that lady's eyes, there were tears because we got to where we needed to be. That you ought to know, ought to make you all feel tremendous about what this team, NGA West, believes about this community and the mission that they provide to not only the entire Department of Defense, but to our nation. And Sue, thank you for your patience and your diligence. As I said, I recognize I'm the 8th one to stand up here, so let me very, very quick, but leave you with 3 thoughts. One word that you've not heard today that I think is tremendously important, that's allowed us to get to where we are today, is the word compromise. Nobody in this program, at the federal, state, local, and in the neighborhood, got all they wanted. But at the end of the day, because we were willing to collectively compromise, we are standing here to celebrate and do something and say something that many thought not possible. And so what I'd offer to you that as we move forward, we'll have other requirements for compromise, we'll work together, but we'll continue to see the progress that we truly need. Point number 2, if I could. This is about winning. And when you can compromise, everybody can win. Our folks in the neighborhood, if we come back in a decade and look at what this means for that community and that neighborhood, it will truly be a winner. For the city of St. Louis, for the state, a winner. For NGA it is. But most importantly, and what's most important to me, this is a win for our national defense. The world that we have today is a different world than we had over the last 2 decades. There are threats out there. There are those that will do us ill will, those that don't care about our way of life, whatever flaws it may have. And so this is an opportunity together to make a difference for the future, to work together, to do it from here in the heart of America, to make a difference for not only us, but more importantly for our children and our grandchildren, and you have given us this opportunity. Finally, third thought. Today is a great celebration. We've been in here now for 1 hour and 2 minutes. Otis, you ran long, but we knew you would. But today has simply gotten us to the starting line. There's a tremendous amount to do. We've got to build a building. We've got to take occupancy of that building. And we've got to make sure we have the right workforce to do the things that we need to do. So it is right and proper that we have gathered together today to celebrate, to be excited about what we have done. But in fact, all we have done is get to that starting line. We have much to do. The commitment from us within the federal bureaucracy is that we will be with you hand in hand. Together we will move forward, create Robert Cardillo with a tremendous facility for he and his team to continue to protect this country. Thanks for the opportunity to be part of this team. God bless you, and may God continue to bless the United States of America.
Okay, we're at the very end here with about 2 things to do, but I've got one thing that I have to do for sure, and that is I need to thank my wife, who was... We've been married 45 years, and so she's been with 30 years in the military, and then actually 20 years here. 5 years of that, I was not married to her, but 45 years of life together. She has seen me go through some difficult times. This is one of the more stressful ones, and so for that, I thank you very much for putting up with my unusual temperament sometimes. All right, so there are a couple of other folks. I need to make sure that I acknowledge the Army Corps of Engineers because that's my roots, that 30 years. And so I see Colonel Thompson here, who, stand up. He's the district engineer in Kansas City. And it's his team that's going to lead the construction effort going forward. And so I want to recognize Stephanie Hall, who is the program manager. So the name that will become more in the news than mine will be Stephanie Hall. Remember that one. Okay. And I see a number of other folks from the city who are here. I see Judge Edwards, and so I want to make sure I acknowledge him. And the fire chief and the police chief, always great to have them here. And so a lot of past and former employees. I also see Katie Jo Wheeler and Wes March, who from the Department of Natural Resources, just really made it happen. And also the folks from the EPA. The EPA was the cornerstone for the federal government. They didn't want to believe anything the state of Missouri or the city of St. Louis, so they wanted to make sure that the EPA weighed in on it. So I see the regional director, Mr. Chu, and Todd Davis here. So thank you all very much for being here. Okay, and like I said, if I start off, I could name if I went down every row, I could probably say something about some of all of you. So thank you all very much. So we're at the point now where I'd like to bring the document on board, and we will formally have a signature event. So can we do that? So the people that will be participating in this ceremonial signing will be Mayor Cruzen representing the city of St. Louis, Director Robert Cordillo representing the NGA, and Mr. Richard Hartley representing the Principal Assistant Secretary of the Air Force representing the Air Force. This is a three-way document in the sense that I want everyone to know that essentially the city of St. Louis is passing this land on to the Air Force, and the Air Force will allow the NGA to use it for years to come through a lease arrangement. So we would like for the principals to stand, and they will be given a signature, a Sharpie. And oh, are you waiting for me? So each of the principals they're holding a signed copy we signed before in the green room, and this is the document that will be posted hopefully in each of their significant locations. There will be other copies of this made, and we will share with the key visitors.